Then Adonai answered Iov out of the storm, "Who is this, darkening my plans with his ignorant words? Stand up like a man and brace yourself. I will ask you questions, and you give the answers. Where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me, if you know so much. Do you know who determined its dimensions or stretched the measuring line across it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Who shut up the sea behind closed doors when it gushed forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its blanket and dense fog its swaddling cloth, when I made the breakers its boundaries, set its gates, its bars, and said, you may come this far but no farther. Here your proud waves must stop. Have you ever, in your life, called up the dawn and made the morning known its place, so that it could take hold of the edges of the earth and shake the wicked out of it? Then the earth is changed like clay under a seal, until its colors are fixed like those of a garment. But from the wicked the light is withheld, and the arm raises to strike is broken. Have you gone down to the spring of the sea, or explored the limits of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, the gates of death-like darkness? Have you surveyed the full extent of the earth? Say so, if you know it all. Which way leads to where light has its home, and darkness, where does it dwell? If you knew, you could take each to its place and set it on its homeward path. You know, of course, because you were born then. By now you must be very old. Have you gone into the storehouse for snow, or seen the storehouses for hail, which I have saved for times of trouble, for days of battle and war? But what path is light dispersed, or the east wind poured out on the land? Who cut a channel for the downpours, or a way for the lightning to thunder, causing it to rain where no one is, in a desert without anyone there, drenching the waste and desolate ground till the tender grass sprouts? Does the rain have a father? Who is the father of the dewdrops? From whose womb does ice come? Who gives birth to the frost of heaven, when water comes as hard as stone and the surface of the deep freezes solid? Can you tie up the cords of the Pleiades, or loosen the belt of Orion? Can you lead out the constellations of the zodiac in their season, or guide the great bear and its cubs? Do you know the laws of the sky? Do you determine how they affect the earth? Can you raise your voice to the clouds and make them cover you with flood rain? Can you send lightning bolts on their way? Will they say to you, here we are? Who put wisdom in people's inner parts? Who gave understanding to the mind? Who, by wisdom, can number the clouds? Who can tilt the waterskins of heaven, so that the dust becomes a mass of mud and its clods stick together? Can you hunt prey for a lioness, or satisfy the appetite of a young lion when they crouch in their dens or lie in ambush in their lairs? Who provides food for the raven when his hungry cry out to God and wander about for lack of food? Do you know when mountain goats give birth? Have you seen deer in labor? Can you tell how many months they carry their young? Do you know when they give birth? When they crouch down and bring forth their young, when they deliver their fawns? Their young become strong, growing up in the open. They leave and never return. Who lets the wild donkey roam free? Who sets the wild donkey loose from its shackles? I made the Arava its home, the salty desert its place to live. It scorns the noise of the city and hears no driver shout. It ranges over the hills for its pasture, searching for anything green. Would a wild ox be willing to serve you? Would it stay by your stall? Could you tie a rope around its neck and make it plow furrows for you? Would you trust its great strength enough to let it do your heavy work, or rely on it to bring home your seed and gather the grain from your threshing floor? An ostrich's wings beat wildly, although its pinions lack plumage. It leaves its eggs on the ground and lets them be warmed by the sand, forgetting that the foot may crush them, or a wild animal trampled on them. It treats its chicks heartlessly, as if they were not its own. Even if her labor is in vain, it really doesn't care, because God has depraved it of wisdom and gives it no share in understanding. When the time comes, it flaps its wings, scorning both horse and rider. Did you give the horse its strength? Did you clothe its neck with a mane? Did you make him able to leap like a locust? Its majestic snorting is frightening. Its paw's force exalts with vigor, then charges into the battle, mocking at fear, unafraid. It does not shy away from the sword. The rider's quiver rattles over it, his gleaming spear and javelin. Frenzied and eager, it devours the ground, scarcely believing the shofar has sounded. At the sound of the shofar, it whines. As far away, it scents the battle, the roar of the chiefs and the shouting. Is it your wisdom that set the hawk soaring, spreading its wings toward the south? Does the eagle fly up when you say so, to build its nest in the heights? It lives and spends its nights in the cliffs. A raging crag is for fortress. From there it spots its prey. It sees far off. Its young ones suck up blood. Whenever the slain there are, there it is. Continuing to address Iov, Adonai said, Does the critic still want to dispute Shaddai? Let him who wants to correct God give an answer. Then Iov replied to Adonai, I am too ashamed. I have nothing to say. I lay my hand over my mouth. Yes, I spoke once, but I won't answer more. I'll write twice, but I won't go on. Adonai answered Iov out of the storm. Stand up like a man and brace yourself. I will ask questions, and you give the answers. Are you impugning my justice? Putting me in the wrong to prove yourself right? Do you have an arm like God's? Can you thunder with a voice like his? Come on, deck yourself with majesty and dignity. Robe yourself in glory and splendor. Let loose your furious anger. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Look at all who are proud and bring them down. Tread down the wicked where they stand. Bury them in the ground together. Bind their faces in the hidden world. If you do this, then I will confess to you that your own power can save you. Now consider Behemoth, whom I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. What strength he has in his loins. What power in his stomach muscles. Can you make his tail as stiff as a cedar? The muscles of his thighs are like cables. His bones are like bronze pipes. His limbs like iron bars. He ranks first among God's work. Only his maker can approach him with his sword. The mountains produce food for him there, where all the wild animals play. He lies down under the thorny lotus bushes and is hidden there by the reeds in the swamp. The lotus bushes cover him in their shade, and the willows by the stream surrounds him. In the river's overflows, it doesn't worry him. He is confident even in the Yarden, rushes by his mouth. Can anyone catch him by his eyes or pierce his nose with a hook? And Leviathan, can you catch him with a fish hook or hold his tongue down with a rope? Can you put a ring in his nose or pierce his jaw with a barb? Will he entreat you at length? Will he speak with you softly? Will he agree with you to be your slave forever? Will you play with him as you would a bird or keep him on a string to amuse the little girls? Will a group of fishermen turn him into a banquet? They will divide him among the merchants. Can you fill his skin with darts or his head with fish spears? If you lay your hand on him, you won't forget the flight. You'll never do it again. Look, any hope of capturing him is futile. One would fall prostrate at the very sight of him. No one is fierce enough to rouse him. So who can stand up to me? Who has given me anything and made me pay it back? Everything belongs to me under the heaven. I have more to say about his limbs, his strong talk, and his matchless strength. Who can strip off his scaly garment? Who can enter his jaws? Who can pry open the door of his face, so close to his terrible teeth? His pride is his rows of scales, tightly sealed together. One is so close to the next that no air can come between them. They are stuck one to another, interlocking and impervious. When he sneezes, light flashes out. His eyes are like the shimmer of dawn. From his mouth goes fiery torches, and sparks come flying out. His nostrils belch steam, like a cauldron boiling in fire. His breath sets coals ablaze, flames pour from his mouth. Strength resides in his neck, and dismay dances ahead of him as he goes. The layers of his flesh stick together. They are firm on him, immovable. His heart is hard as a stone. Yes, hard as a lower millstone. When he rears himself up, the gods are afraid, besides themselves in despair. If a sword touches him, it won't stick. Neither will a spear or a dart or a lance. He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. An arrow can make him flee. An arrow can't make him flee. For him, sling stones are so much chaff. Clubs count as hay, and he laughs at the quivering javelin. His belly is sharp and fragments his pottery, so he moves across the mud like threshing sledge. He makes the depths seethe like a pot. He makes the sea boil like perfumed kettle. He leaves the shining wake behind him, making a deep seam to have white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, a creature without fear. He looks straight at all high things. He's his king over his proud beasts. Then at last, Iov gave Adonai his answer. I know that you can do everything, that no purposes yours can be thwarted. You asked, who is this, hiding counsel, without having knowledge? Yes, I spoke, without understanding, of wonders far beyond me, which I didn't know. Please listen, and I will speak. You said, I will answer questions, and you give me answers. I heard about you with my ears, but now my eyes sees you. Therefore I detest myself, and repent in dust and ashes. After Adonai had spoken these words to Iov, Adonai said to Eliphaz and Taamani, my anger is blazing against you and your two friends, because, unlike my servant Iov, you have not spoken rightly about me. So now, get yourselves 7 young bulls and 7 rams to my servant Iov, and offer up to yourselves a burnt offering. My servant Iov will pray for you, because him I will accept, so that I won't punish you as your boorishness deserves, because you have not spoken rightly about me, as my servant Iov has. So Eliphaz and Taamani, Bildad and Shuki and Sophar and Naamati went and did as Adonai had ordered them to do, and Adonai accepted Iov's prayers. When Iov prayed for his friends, Adonai restored his fortunes. Adonai gave Iov twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers and sisters came to him, also all those who had known before, and they ate a meal with him in his house. They consoled and comforted him with all the evils Adonai had inflicted on him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and a gold ring. Adonai blessed Iov's later situation even more than his earlier one. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 pairs of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. The first he named Yama, the second Katsiah, the third Karen Hapuch. Nowhere in the land could women be found as beautiful as Iov's daughters. Their father gave them inheritance among their brothers. After this, Iov lived 140 years, long enough to see his sons and grandsons 4 generations. Then, old and full of days, Iov died.